Your cat did not become difficult overnight. It became tired of adjusting to disappointments that kept repeating inside the place where it should feel safest. At first, it still tried to be patient, because most cats begin by adapting quietly instead of turning every discomfort into an immediate fight. It drank from stale water a little longer, used a litter box a little dirtier, and waited through feeding times that kept shifting. It accepted missed play sessions, shorter attention, and touch that arrived at the wrong moment, even when its body was already asking for space. None of those moments looked dramatic alone, which is why owners often miss them. But the cat still feels each one as information. A cat watches patterns more than promises, so repeated neglect does not register as one accident. It settles into the nervous system. The empty bowl is not only hunger to a cat, it also becomes uncertainty about whether comfort will arrive when needed again. The unclean litter box is not simple inconvenience either. It can feel like being asked to relax in a place that no longer feels right. When affection comes during rest, pain, or overstimulation, the cat does not read love first. It reads that its signals were ignored. Because cats are subtle communicators, their first protests are usually tiny. A tail flick, a turned head, a pause, a longer stare. People often call those behaviors attitude, but they are closer to boundary markers, the equivalent of saying, "Please notice this," before it gets worse. A patient cat can tolerate a lot, which is exactly why the change feels sudden to humans when the breaking point finally appears. But inside the cat, that frustration has usually been building in layers. Each small need left unmet becoming one more reason to stay guarded. It may still come when called sometimes, but slower now, as if testing whether answering you still feels worth the effort today. It may sit nearby without leaning in, staying close enough to watch you, yet far enough to protect the little trust it has left. When you reach out during a tense moment, that stronger tail movement is not drama. It is the body trying harder to be understood. When the cat stares at an empty bowl for longer than usual, it is not performing. It is holding attention where a need remains unanswered. When it toilets outside the box, that behavior may look defiant, but often it is stress, aversion, discomfort, or communication spilling over. A light bite during lifting can be the cat's last polite option after softer signals failed, not proof that it suddenly hates contact. And when it stops sleeping beside you, the distance can hurt because sleep is trust. And trust is where repeated disappointment leaves scars. Owners usually notice the final withdrawal first, because quiet escalation is easy to miss until affection, routine, and shared space all change. That is why many cats get labeled moody, mean, cold, or ungrateful, when the real story is much sadder and much more ordinary. The cat is not reacting to one giant failure. It is reacting to a long trail of little moments where its comfort mattered less. Animals that depend on humans cannot simply explain disappointment, so they express it through rhythm, posture, distance, and changes in everyday habits. In that way, not a cat's fading patience looks surprisingly human. Basic needs go unmet, hope stays alive a while, then frustration hardens into self-protection. The first stage is accommodation, where the cat keeps trying to fit your routine, even when your routine keeps forgetting what the cat needs. The second stage is tension, where the body begins speaking louder because calm signals were not working, and patience starts costing more. The third stage is distance, where the cat protects itself by reducing closeness, choosing less contact because closeness no longer feels reliably gentle. And the final stage may look like misbehavior, though it is often the moment accumulated distress becomes too large to stay polite anymore. This is why punishment usually makes the problem worse, because the cat is already struggling with trust, and punishment teaches that honesty is unsafe. If a cat finally hisses, swats, bites, or leaves, that behavior is often late communication, not the first sign of trouble there. Long before the obvious rupture, the cat may have blinked less softly, held its muscles tighter, or started monitoring you with heavier eyes. Those small changes matter because cats communicate through thresholds. showing discomfort gradually and hoping the relationship can recover without open conflict first. A cat does not need luxury to stay loving, but it does need consistency, because consistency tells the nervous system that life is manageable. Fresh water, a cleaner box, regular meals, respectful touch, and shared play can look small to us, yet they form emotional stability for cats. When those basics disappear too often, the cat begins living in low-level disappointment. And low-level disappointment changes behavior long before crisis arrives. That is why the owner's intention is not the whole story. A loving person can still create chronic stress through inconsistency and inattention. From the cat's perspective, care is measured less by dramatic affection and more by whether comfort keeps showing up in ordinary moments. A late dinner once is forgivable, but irregular feeding again and again teaches the body to brace, and bracing slowly erodes ease. A missed play session once is harmless, but repeated boredom leaves energy with nowhere to go. So frustration starts looking like attitude. Touch at the wrong time once may be tolerated, but repeated interruption teaches the cat that closeness can arrive without respect too. Even a busy owner may not notice this shift, because the cat still behaves almost normally while its inner safety is quietly thinning. That is the heartbreaking part. By the time the distance becomes obvious, the cat has often been asking for better care for weeks. It did not want a perfect owner, but wanted a predictable one, because predictability matters more to trust than grand bursts of affection. Cats forgive mistakes more easily than patterns, because a mistake passes, but a pattern teaches them what kind of world they live in. So when your cat turns away at your voice, it may not be rejecting you entirely. It may be protecting itself from more letdown. When it resists being held, it may not hate affection. It may hate being touched after too many moments when consent did not matter. When it chooses another room to sleep, it may not be punishing you. It may be choosing the place where vigilance feels lower. These behaviors become less mysterious when we stop asking whether the cat is nice and start asking whether the cat still feels secure. That question changes everything, because security explains far more feline behavior than personality labels ever will, especially when daily care keeps slipping. The cat's patience was never endless. It only looked endless because its early coping was quiet, flexible, and easy for humans to overlook. Silence is dangerous in relationships, because silence gets mistaken for peace, even when it is really endurance wearing a calm face at home. That is often what happens with cats. Owners read tolerance as satisfaction, then feel shocked when tolerance eventually turns into visible resistance. But resistance is not betrayal. It is what happens when a dependent animal can no longer carry all the emotional work alone. The cat kept adjusting, interpreting, waiting, and hoping. And every time nothing changed, that hope grew thinner inside the daily relationship slowly. Eventually, the cat learns a painful lesson. Needing something does not mean it will be noticed. So self-protection starts replacing openness first. That is why the cat may seem colder while actually becoming more anxious, more watchful, and less willing to risk vulnerable closeness. Distance is not always a lack of love. Sometimes it is what love looks like after trust has been bruised too many times. A cat that no longer curls beside you may still care deeply, but now it cares from a place where caution stands guard. A cat that lightly bites during handling may still trust you some, but not enough to believe discomfort will stop without force. What looks like attitude is often accumulated evidence. The body keeping score after too many small moments said the same painful thing. You are not seeing a random mood swing. You are seeing the visible edge of a pattern that has been shaping behavior. And once you understand that, blame becomes less useful than repair, because the problem was never evilness. It was unmet needs accumulating. Repair starts with basics, not speeches. Refresh the water, clean the litter more faithfully, stabilize meals, and make comfort easier to trust. It continues with respectful touch, which means noticing body language sooner and accepting that affection offered on your schedule may not feel kind. And it also means giving the cat interactive play again, because play is not entertainment alone. It is release, confidence, and emotional reconnection. Routine matters here because trust returns through repetition, not through one apologetic night of extra cuddles or a single new toy alone. The cat needs to experience care arriving consistently enough that its body stops preparing for disappointment before every ordinary need appears again. That repair can take time, because cats remember patterns, and remembered patterns do not vanish the moment an owner finally notices them. Still, many cats soften once consistency returns, not because they forget the neglect, but because their nervous system begins believing safety again. The turned head may become a slower glance back. The tense tail may loosen sooner, and the faraway sleeping spot may move closer. Those are not small victories. They are signs the cat is testing whether closeness can be safe again without costing too much. If you respond gently to those returning signals, trust can rebuild, not perfectly, but honestly, which is often enough for love to reopen. But if the old inconsistency returns, the cat may retreat faster than before, because once trust cracks, the second crack comes easier. That is not spite. It is memory protecting the cat from relearning the same hurt through the same familiar daily pattern again. So the most important shift for an owner is this: stop judging the behavior first and start listening to what created it. Ask what need has been delayed, what signal has been missed, and what part of daily care stopped feeling reliable to the cat. That question is kinder, smarter, and more accurate than asking why the cat suddenly became difficult, because difficulty is usually the aftermath. By the time behavior looks rude, the relationship has already been carrying strain underneath, often quietly enough that only the cat felt it. And because the cat cannot explain itself in words, humans often arrive late to the truth, meeting pain only after patience runs out. That is what makes this kind of distance so sad. The cat warned, adapted, waited, and hoped long before it withdrew away. It was not asking for perfection, applause, or luxury. It was asking for small daily care that arrived often enough to feel dependable. And when that dependable care failed too many times, the cat did not become evil. It became tired, discouraged, and harder to reach. Seen this way, and the distant cat is not a villain in your home. It is the visible shape of ignored needs inside. Seen this way, the litter accident is not revenge, the bite is not cruelty, and the silence is not emotional emptiness either. They are signals from a relationship that has become uneven, where the cat kept giving patience longer than its basic comfort could afford. The good news is that what was damaged through repetition can often be healed through repetition, if the repetition becomes kinder daily. Not instantly, not flawlessly, but steadily enough that the cat begins choosing connection again instead of bracing for disappointment in advance daily. Because the cat never needed a perfect life with you. It only needed enough consistent care to keep believing it mattered daily. And once it feels that steady care again, the cat you feared was mean may simply show you it was hurt all along.